All right. My name is Mike Nelson, and what I'm going to be going over is some basic uses of SQL using MySQL, as well as going to go over a little bit on how to get to that with Java coding. So the first thing, I'm using MySQL Workbench. I'm not going to go into how to download this. There's a lot of forums, tutorials. I'm showing you how to do it. Quick Google search. I didn't want to bug you guys down because I'm sure you guys can all handle that. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a database first. And all we need to do is just to create database, if not exists, and whatever we want to name it. So in this particular case, we can just name it school because it's going to go with kind of my example. Little lightning bolt up here is going to execute that for us. And if I refresh, we can see over here in my schemas, we do have a database named schools, but we don't have any tables or any information that we can store currently. So next, first, if we want to have some tables, one thing I should also mention too is right now we currently don't have a default set for the databases, so it doesn't know which table we're going to add it to. So if we just do use school, we can see, whoops, sorry, capital. It's going to hold it in the left-hand side here, and that's just showing us that it's our currently activated one. So when we create a table, all we're going to do is say create table, and we'll add students, because that's probably a good table for our school, right? If you notice, these are not apostrophes, these are the grave accents. If you don't know what that is the lowercase tilde symbol. All right, and with SQL, the pound symbol is going to be the comment line, and we're always going to end with a semicolon. So first, we're going to start with what columns do we want in our table? So we're going to have an ID for a student, and we're going to set the value. So let's say it's going to be an integer. It's a primary key. These are all base driven. And let's have it auto increment. Next, just separated by a comma, we can add the name of the student. And in this particular case, we're going to do a bar chart, and we have to set the size. So this one, we're going to give it 100 bytes for the name of the student. And we're going to say it's not null, which means when they try to add something into this location, they're required to have a name. They can't forget about it when they do their inserts. And we're also going to have a major. And we can also set that to 100 bits as well. And this one, we can just say it defaults to null. This one, they're not required to have. Okay. So with that, we can hit the symbol again. If we refresh our schemas over here, we can say we now have a new table, and with the columns that we set. And with that, using school, we can see if we just run a simple search, there's nothing in here. Well, of course, there's nothing here. And with that query, just using select star, star just means everything, so all the columns from students. But we have nothing to show, so there's no point to even worry about that. So for a simple insert into our table, we can just do insert into students. And when we're using insert, we're going to have to specify the columns that we want to enter in first. Because ID is primary key and auto increment, we don't have to worry about that. So we can just do name and major. And then we're going to do our values. These are going to be in the order that you have the columns, separated by apostrophe. So let's just, we'll add me to here, and major is computer science. And with a semicolon. And that search is still underneath, so both of these will run. And we'll see that inside the table, we do have me inside of here. So we can probably also just add another person just to show. So we'll add Nathan into biology. Run that. And now we say we got two people in here, and our ID is auto-incrementing. Next, we'll look at update. Update is basically the same, slightly different. So we're going to update the students table, and we're going to set. Now these are going to be key value pairs or column value pairs. So we're going to start with the name equals, and we'll change it to Ryan. Sorry, with the comma, and then we'll change the major to bio. Now, if we run this, what would you think would happen? Is it going to update everyone? Because it doesn't know who it knows, right? One of the good things, so we caught an error here. Inside of here, actually that could have been it. We're going to get an error that says we're using an unsafe update. This is special to the workbench. This is checking to make sure you don't do an ambiguous statement that just updates everything and ruins all your data. So what we can do is have a where, and we'll say where name equals me. So we're going to update mine, right? Run this again. It's still an ambiguous statement because there might be more than one Micah, right? So if we limit that to 1, we can see that it worked. And we see that I'm now gone and some Ryan is in my spot. And we'll work on delete. So if we want to delete any of these in there, all we have to do is just write delete from students. And then we just need our where again. And this time, without using the limit, we can just set it where ID equals 1. Because we're using a primary key, it's not going to be an ambiguous statement. She'll work right away, and now it's gone. And that's kind of a simple table. And what I want to show you now is I'm going to add a couple more tables for you guys. So if we look at this, I'm adding the students again, a new class table. So what classes are there available? And we're also going to show classes taken. And if you highlight it, it tries to run that script. So when to here, we can refresh this and see we now have 3 tables for this. I didn't want to bore you guys with just a very simple tables. They're all independent. So I want to make this a slight relational database. So in this particular case, we're going to have insert into just like before, but we're going to insert this into my new table, which is classes taken. We're going to pass in a student ID, a class ID, and a grade. So we're going to say who's ever in 1, we're just going to put them in here and give them a B for a grade, right? So we run this, we're going to see, oh, our table just says 1, 1B. I mean, that really doesn't help us when we're trying to verify for information, does it? So good thing with working with a relational database, we can use joins. So if we do select, and let's say we want the name, the class name, the credits, and the grade on this particular student. And we're going to do this from classes taken. This CT is just an alias. It's just going to be shorthand for later. And we can see that classes taken, I mean, it doesn't have that information. It just has an ID and grades. So it doesn't have class name. So how's this going to work? By adding a simple joins on here. So if we join student table and another alias, we're just going to call this S for now. And we're going to join it on the ID inside students is equal to the student ID inside our classes taken. But we also need our class name too, so we have to join on the classes. And we'll just call that C for an alias. And we'll do C on ID equals the class ID. And so when we run this, we should get everyone in there. And oops. Am I still doing something wrong? And I never to create the table. Nice. Oh. There we go. All right. So we see we have no results. We should actually have results in here. This is not going well. All right. So I'm just going to reset this database quick. And I'm going to enter in the students as well as the classes taken into it. And we'll run this again. And we'll see with that information, because I just inserted that in here, as we can see. I'm just inserting the IDs of the students with their grade and such. And we can see our output. We're getting the name of the student, the class name, the credits, and the grade just based on those joins. That is simply really all there is to SQL. It's more or less just having fun and discovering more stuff. There's many different types of joins. I just kept it simple with join. But what I wanted to show you now is, because we have this created, we can go over to Java. So with any language is going to be able to access the database, but with Java in particular, we're going to need a driver that's going to connect to the database. So all you're going to have to do is go to this website and just download the driver for all platforms. It's going to give you a zip or tar. Just extract it, take out the jar file, and just put it in wherever your class directory is. And then with that, just import sql.star, just simplest way to get this working. And what we're going to do is the URL. So this is going to be exactly the same for everyone if you're running on the same machine. And then you're also going to tell it what database we're using. So we're going to use school, the one I created. Your username and password are going to be however you created your database. In this particular case, mine is just set to root and password. We're going to have to create a connection, just call it con. And with that, we're going to do the driver manager.get connection. Now, without that driver, we installed the jar file. This will not work. You won't be able to connect to it. And in this particular case with Java, most languages don't require you to do that. So with that connection, we can make a statement. And we're just going to do our connection.create statement. And in this particular case, we're going to print from query. I kind of took it out and moved it down here. But as you see, it's just the same as the other stuff. It's just a copy paste of how we're entering it into there. We're going to retrieve that using a result set. So with the statement, we're going to execute the query. And it's going to return a result set, which is more or less a data structure where we can use next to get each individual record. And as you see down here, we're doing a while next. And we're just going to print out the information. So we're going to get int, get the ID, the name of the student, and the major. And when running this, we're just going to do Java C, just like normal, however you compile your program. The part that may confuse you, don't forget this part, you're going to have to do a -cp, and then you're just going to put that jar in there. You're going to end it with a colon, and then you're going to have the name of your program. So it's going to be able to access the database. So you saw the first part, it just requested the information and saw who it was. With that, I just have a pause going on right now. We can see next part is an execute update. So this is for our insert. So we're just going to insert into students, and in this particular case, we're going to have the name, computer, and the computer is taking information systems, right? That's probably a good one to say. So we'll just continue on, and we'll see it added him into the database. For the next part, I wanted to do a little bit more on the joins. So you saw how you could access the table and combine them all to get the information to it. So with this one, we're going to make a new query. This is just a copy paste from the other one, except we're going to pass in an ID to it. So we're going to make this a little bit more dynamic. This is just going to get a result set and just print it up for us. So if we want to say the computer, right? What classes has the computer taken? We can say he's got 0 results. I mean, we just put him in there. Well, let's see me. Well, I got 2 courses. You can see the letters, the credits, or we can see what Nathan has. Nathan has taken a lot of classes. And with that, you just remember to close your statement, close your connection. That way the database doesn't keep it open. You may run out if you're doing this repetitively. But that's as simple as it is to access a database with MySQL and using Java. Any questions?
Why are you not using the question mark for the query so that you can just place, so you don't need to play yourself against the Java fixes?
Correct. Well, not quite. The question mark is just a preparation statement.
Yeah.
You're using the JDBC. I did. Not if you check it. But your other way you're talking is also dangerous because your JDBC is just preparing it. It's just you're gonna allow it to put parameters in the statement and it'll pass it in for you.
So we can't have other statements after.
Correct. But in this particular case, there's nothing against, or there will be no injections just because it's an integer value. And I didn't want to get too far in depth with that. Well, this is, yeah. Anything else? Okay. Thank you.